Sorry, pause recording. I apologize. For those who are just joining on the recording, I want to let you know we just did a very quick intro and the purpose of the meeting, and I apologize because I had the recording paused. So we are on with Deanna Hall from Ventura College. She is now going into the overview of what the meeting looks like. Sorry about that, everyone.
No, that's great. I am so glad that you caught that, Renee. Thank you. So again, we're going to be doing a few updates with people about just what they have been doing and what they're thinking about doing, what resources are available. We'll go into breakout rooms and we'll have a moderator in each of the breakout rooms to kind of keep us on task, rack our brains so that we can come up with what our asks are, what we need to make sure that our students have the best possible experience given the current circumstances. And then who do we need to have in our corner? So I'm going to start with just telling you a little bit about some of the things that Rachel and I, and I'm going to say mostly Rachel because she taught the 66, which is our practicum experience this semester. And really had to do the test runs of a lot of this thinking on the fly like so many of us have. So some of the things that we have done is we, like many of us, used videos to finish up the spring semester. Our students, both in our observing and assessing class, as well as our practicum experience, had time with the children. We also, it's important for you to know that we work very closely with our school's lab school. So we have a center on campus. We have great relationships with the master teachers as well as the center director. So we were really able to utilize those partnerships. And so when things did kind of go crazy, Rachel was able to pull in the director and pull in the master teachers. And so they were able to finish out the semester with having these in-depth discussions with the master teachers as part of their finishing their experience, which became very, very valuable. And so we are looking at then for the fall, how can we continue to use this? We do not know whether or not our lab school is going to be open. If it's going to physically be open or if it's going to be completely closed, if they're going to try to do some form of internet preschool. Some of you may have been hearing about that option. We don't know yet. There's a meeting at our district next week that will help determine what will be happening. But in lieu of that, part of our plans A through J is one to use live Zoom streaming for meetings. So the idea is that this would not be for the entire number of hours, but for part of the time that our students would be able to live stream in the classrooms, if the classrooms are open with the teachers, they would be able to do observations for our observing and assessing students. They would be able to actually implement activities and story times to some degree with children via live streaming. This could also work if they go to an internet preschool model, which that just saying those words kind of hurt my soul, but that's where we are at this moment. We're also looking at having it live streamed at our Teacher Resource and Education Center on campus using social distancing and with Rachel, or I probably just need this semester, we haven't worked all the details out yet, guiding students through. So those are some of the things. The other thing that we've been thinking about is if we can't use live streaming, then what resources, what raw footage is out there? Who has access to that? Who has storehouses full of raw footage of preschool classrooms that we could utilize and incorporate in conjunction with those deep discussions with our master teachers. Our master teachers have already said we are on board, we loved it, it was a great experience for us, and we want to do more for our students. Okay, that is kind of the big thing. What, Rachel?
1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to be done. I'm going to give that minute to somebody else. I was talking fast and furious because we got a lot of people here to say a lot of things. So that's kind of the big umbrella overview. And if you have been talking about any of those things or wondering about any of those things, you know, you're not alone. We did look into, there was concern about confidentiality and children and live streaming. Our IT people, our Our legal team, our president, our vice president are all on board. Those protections are in place. It would be done through our Canvas shells, and there's precedent for it in other courses as long as there are waivers from the children's families. So, and we've also done a proposal for money for technology that we might need to use, as well as a letter to our legal department. So if that is something that any of you are interested in, just seeing how we did it, it is not perfect. It is not, you know, the thing to do, but it might give you some ideas if that's something you would want to pursue for yourself. All right, 15 seconds, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Next up.
Next up is Kathleen White. Welcome, and I will mute myself. Kathleen?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, hello, Kathleen.
Hi, everybody. I want to talk generally about what we've been doing in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then I do want to share some breaking news for the community college folks. Am I able to share screen?
Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, if you just give me permission, that'd be great.
Oh, hey, we can't
in
hear
the San
you.
Francisco,
I'm going to stop share right now,
hear
and
me?
then you can go on, Kathleen. Sorry about that. Here we go.
okay, can you hear me now? All right, so I will share in 1 second. In the San Francisco Bay region, we decided a while ago that we needed a community of practice in early childhood education and in teacher preparation in the education sector. So we started in April 2 communities of practice. They're co-sponsored by BACCC, which is our regional consortium, our CTE regional consortium. And for the early childhood portion, they're co-sponsored by Tri-CECE. So we have our 2 leads. Anthony are the Tri-CECE leads in our both 2 subregions. And so we did a survey of faculty in our region. And of course, what do you think the #1 thing was that people were worried about? Practicums and labs. So, so we did talk about that. You'll hear more from Jennifer Paris and Sidney Stevens, I believe, later. They have Google Doc resources that are great. And so we were able to share them early on with our folks. And I know they have since grown because we've had people contribute to them. And they have resources that I believe Cindy or Jennifer will be on this call, so they can talk about the origins and how those resources have grown. So I do want to share something that just came from the State Chancellor's Office for you community college folks. It has to do with work experience. We've been waiting for 2 months really to hear guidance around what to do with work experience. And I know at our college, in addition to having practicum and lab experiences, many of our students use work experience to get the hours they need for their permits. And work experience, practicum, lab, it's the same thing. It's, we were waiting for guidance. And work experience is governed by Title V. So let me just share this. We heard this just came out today. You can see it. I can send you a link, but it is, these are the emergency guidance. Let me move everyone's pictures here so I can scroll down. Dated May 21st, so hot off the press. They had to actually make changes to Title V in order to allow for these work experience modifications. So what it goes through has to do with extending instructional hours if students need more time, virtual consultations, in other words, using, you know, there is Title V explain that with work experience, and many of our practicum and labs, you have to have in-person consultation to kind of verify that a student is really there, et cetera. So moving to allowing for virtual consultation, how you account for attendance, alternate options and placements, additional resources. And again, this is hot off the press. So, and then with it was this guidance document, which is a temporary suspension of the regs related to cooperative experience. So many of you, I know, use a combination of work experience and lecture to meet some of your practicum requirements in the field. So I will make sure to send these links out through the chat. And I want to say that we've already had a number of our communities of practice meetings. We've had good attendance ranging from 24 faculty to 33. And we'll probably be getting more as people here. We plan to keep doing this at least through the middle of June and then pick it up in August. So I would also suggest that all of you, this is a very large group. Wow, we're over 200 right now. I just looked at the number of participants. Our hope was that we will be including some of our K-12 partners, especially those in dual enrollment, for some key meetings. And I would urge you to also consider K-12 if you're doing dual enrollment. Some of those teachers really need some guidance around what we're doing. And I see a lot of CSU and UC partners, so they may be able to also enlighten us about the policies that have already come out. The last thing I'll share with you, and you've probably all seen this, but I can send you the link also. This came out a while ago from CDE, but in here is a joint letter from the CSU Community College System, and I'll send you this link. It's just the COVID update. It's a joint letter from CSU, UC, and Community College around, basically, it's that we're gonna ease our practices. We're gonna do what's in the best interest of students, and we've come up with both some transfer guidance, guidelines, and some joint policies that make it easier for students to not only transfer, but to earn perhaps pass grades instead of letter grades, and waiving some tests, etc. So that's kind of,
I'm
yes?
sorry to interrupt, but you have some comments in the chat box.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so people are asking about
Maybe I can stop
experience and
sharing.
practicum. Yeah, could you just look at your chat box for a minute to check out? There's a few things that people are asking. Thank you.
Okay, now you're asking me to do 4 things at once here. So this is almost at my limit of
I could read it.
possibility.
I could totally read it.
I want us to read the question.
I got it now. I got it. I got it. I got it.
That would be helpful to read it.
Yeah, so I got it. I can see now. So this is a very difficult question, and it's all up to how your curriculum committee at each of your colleges has interpreted work experience. How our curriculum has interpreted work experience is that all of our practicums and our internship courses were required over the last 4 years to convert to a combination of lecture and work experience. And evidently that's in Title V, and evidently that's what everyone's going to be doing. So I can't say whether all colleges have done that, but we converted all of our courses to a lecture and work experience package when we're putting students in actual real life situations and giving them credit for it. So it kind of depends on where your college is in this process. But at our college, we use work experience for the practicum and then lecture for the lecture piece. And it's a hybrid type course. So waiting for these work experience guidelines was important for us, that they were eased and that they were flexible and that we could communicate with students online virtually. And so that, I think that kind of answers your question. When you were talking, people have asked about lab schools. In our lab schools, our students, where lab hours are lab hours. I don't, in our college, there is no difference between lab hours. They're all doing either an internship, practicum, or a work experience. If a student is a student employee and they choose not to earn credit, then they're not really getting credit for their work. But if a student is getting credit, it's through the work experience mechanism. I understand that throughout the state, colleges may not have that same kind of configuration for their courses, but evidently it's in Title V, and I say evidently because, you know, one is never quite sure. But the work experience guidelines are pretty clear in Title V, and our curriculum committee has interpreted that this is how we structure our courses. So I will send you the letter. You can decide how it fits with what your structure is at your college. But most certainly, most of you do have pure work experience courses where you're placing students with children. And so this would apply. And let's see, Kate Brown, supervision. Who supervises a practicum student is a local decision. It's not a statewide decision. No, the CCCO, the Title V regs are just suspending the in-person requirements. Title V clearly states that we have to visually have an in-person relationship with these work experience students through an orientation and through some other communication. So I think using a master teacher and the supervision requirements are local. Those were local anyway. Those were local agreements. So I see lots of comments that supervised experience is different than work. Not at some colleges. No, it's the same. Kind of depends on what your curriculum committee wrote for the course that you're putting your students into. I think the best way to explain it is if it's in the course outline and it says it's a different hybrid type thing, then you go with that. For many of us, it's a combination of work experience and lecture. And that work experience piece is what I'm referring to. Did I answer those?
Oh, absolutely. There's
I see a lot of questions. So,
So one of the things that I'm going to suggest is that if you have put questions in the chat box, there's no way for us to be able, in the time that we have together today, to answer all of them. We will go back through as the moderators and pick out those questions and try to provide best answers and then send those answers out to the group along with the links and the other things that we're going to do as follow-up. So keep asking the questions.
And I'll paste the links to the memos that came out today right now so you can look at them. Okay.
And I've just posted up the survey again, and that's where we're going to get email addresses to send these things out. So if you have not had a second yet to fill out that survey, please do so we can send that information out to you. And Kathleen, we can also, with all of these resources, we can collect all of them and put them in an email out to everybody.
Also, I want to just point out, there's going to be questions in the chat that we will not be able to answer yet. There's a lot of things that are still in movement and in transition and a lot of uncertainty at this point. So we will try our best to answer what we can. We will try our best to let you know which questions are campus specific or region specific. We will try our best to answer as much as we can, but please know it will, in a sense, be like a living document. I have a feeling that that FAQ we put together will, maybe we just consistently update it and as things transpire. Okay, next up, I'm going to go ahead and share screen, and we've got Rachel Johnson coming from Ventura Community College.
Hello, everybody. It's so good to see so many people on here, especially so many familiar faces. It makes me just so happy to see everyone. I was tasked with the wonderful job of talking to licensing and just getting some information for us from licensing. One of the big things, I've been hearing a consistent message across, I've called multiple licensing groups across the state, and the consistent message that I keep getting from licensing is that everything that they're doing is based off of what the governor's message is. And so as of right now, classrooms for preschool at least are limited to 1 adult and 10 children. There's also going to be commingling in those classrooms. If the children come from the same family, they want the children to stay together to lessen the impact. If there are really big classrooms, licensing has said that they will be happy to allow classrooms split in half with a barrier. And they've said it could even be down to just cones splitting the space in half, but classrooms can be split in half with 2 groups. But again, those groups are limited to 1 adult and maximum of 10 children. This has a big impact for us. So even if we do open up classrooms in the community and in lab schools, we're not going to be allowed to let students go in until the governor changes his mind in the direction that he is having us go. So we can't be thinking about sending students into those classrooms.
Rachel,
because
can I chime in for 1 minute too? Because we've
yes,
got governor directive, and that's like part of the story. I literally met with 5 local K-12 superintendents, some that have preschool and some that have practicum students or have fieldwork students coming in, and they told me 100% they are not letting anybody extra on campus next year.
yeah,
So
there.
that's something that we're going to have to figure out who's even allowing it. I know we're looking for alternative ways to get that type or some version of the experience, but we have to know that even if we get a directive from the governor, there's going to be a lot of smaller decisions that will impact us very greatly.
Well, and I'm also going to be sending out links. Our lovely licensing analyst gave me a few links. One of them is, let me see if I can share my screen. So one of the links that I received from our analyst was for the California Department of Public Health, because they're working in conjunction with the governor to issue out directives regarding classroom openings. I know the CDC sent out a link yesterday to new documentation on opening up school settings and everything you need to know. So I'll be sending out a link for this as well. The other thing that has been put in place are all of these, what one of the analysts called best practices to help keep children healthy and safe. And so it's everything from covering group sizes to nap spacing and how they're supposed to space out napping, to playing, to dropping and picking off or picking up. And I know that our center director at our lab school has an extensive checklist that she's already creating for the lab school just to figure out how to open up the space when they are allowed to open it up. She's already on page 4 of just the little things that they have to think about, like, do the parents all need to have the pen sanitized in between each parent, or are they going to have their own pen? I mean, it's just little things like that that are going to impact the schools. So whether or not we're allowed back in the center, know that any kind of center we send students to, it's going to be severely impacted. And I will send those links out when we are done with this. One of the things that we do at Ventura College that has been hugely beneficial for us in our work with practicum students is we use this wonderful technology called Swivel. It's a small base. It's 6-7 inches wide, and you can stick an iPad, an iPhone, any form of that kind of technology into it, and it has a microphone that teachers can wear. And as they're working with children, one of the things that we've been doing is recording the students with that to be able to capture their experiences and then to reflect on it later. There is a lot of money coming down from federal and state grants to help support colleges. Our college was very kind in saying to us as faculty, let us know what kind of technology you need to help you be successful in your classes. So we raised our hands, and one of the first things that we put up, because if the children do go back, one of the things that we're going to be doing is using this technology with the master teachers to do the live streaming, to collect video of the children and teachers together in the classroom so we can capture what they're doing.
Rachel, would you mind mentioning the cost? I can't remember if you said that or not, but I think that's something that's really unique to this, because a lot of times we think technology is going to be a massive investment, and this is like a really cost-efficient way to do something innovative that we now need.
Yes, so with this, I believe the last time we purchased these, they were about $700 per base, and then we also had to purchase the iPads to go with it. We've used it now for a few years, and it is one of the best investments that we've made through grant funding. It has a cloud, so you can actually have the videos go up to the cloud, and I can be anywhere on campus with a student, and we can pull the video of them interacting with children and use that basically anywhere. There's the ability to send them videos, although we choose not to for the confidentiality. But it has so many valuable uses, and it's a tool that we have found really beneficial. I'm not trying to sell this other than to say this is something that helps us do what we do. And when we're trying to think about what we're going to have to do in the fall, it's just one tool that makes our lives a little bit easier. So there is that. Did I miss anything, Deanna, Renee?
I'm sorry?
No, I think that the fact that this has been a very cost-effective means to do what we need to do for our students beforehand. But at this time, because we've talked to our IT, and they said, if you want us to recable the whole school, that's tens of thousands of dollars. That's not going to fly, which would be the response that most of us would get. But when you're talking about $1,500 or less, and there's no monthly subscription fee to the swivel, your IT department will need to help you keep up with the regular updates that it will need, but it's a very cost-effective way to do what it is that we're being asked to do at this time. The sound quality is pretty good. They're easy to work with. And if you have I put this in the chat box, that every college is getting CARES money for COVID response, and technology for this kind of purpose would be absolutely something that could be, you could go to whoever it is on your campus that is in charge of that and do a proposal to purchase this technology. And I'm sorry, if I'm the college president and I'm like, this whole program can continue and it's going to cost me $1,500 for one unit.
Yep.
Absolutely. That they're going to get that back, like that. So
I want to point out something too, Deanna, because Ventura College started using this technology pre-COVID. So
3
it
years
wasn't
ago.
like this was a reaction to what was happening in our culture and society. What a great year to be proactive in terms of getting some new technology going on.
Yeah.
So I
We've
think that's
actually
important to know.
We have 3 years worth of videos of students and children because of the use of these tools, and you can hear them very easily. It's a wonderful tool. I see a couple of questions in the chat box. The question about one adult with 10 children, they're not going to allow practicum students as of right now in classrooms, because the practicum students typically are not allowed to be left alone with children. And the only person that is allowed to be alone with children is the teacher who's assigned to that group. And they're basically saying very limited, barely anybody else in the classroom. The only person that one licensing analyst and I talked about, like the breaker, the person who goes in to give breaks, can be the only other person in a classroom. So and the one thing that she also did say is that these are best practices that they are really trying to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, it's about keeping children and families and teachers healthy and safe, and the less contact that they can have in a classroom with others, the better. As far as the videos being safe, these are password protected. And so the only person who has the password has access to the videos.
Right.
And
the other thing that is coming across, Rachel, is about not only the sharing of the videos, but about closed captioning. You can download these videos into Canvas Studio. Canvas Studio will be able to close caption them. We're in the process right now of doing that. So when we're talking about accessibility issues, if we're needing to use them in the future, then there is that possibility. Yeah.
And I've been using Canvas to upload. There's the studio that does all the closed captioning and it's really, really easy.
Yeah.
Looking for ways to be strategic in terms of, we want to find out what the gaps are, what the needs are. And then if we decide as a collective, as a collaborative, that we need to do a large scale purchase of some sort, we want to be able to advocate that across the state. I know there's also people outside of California on this call, and if we can help for advocacy beyond California, please know we're here to do that. But we're trying to be not just strategic in terms of what's best for our students, but given the budgetary concerns, especially with what happened last week with Newsom and the revised budget, we have to be incredibly strategic in order to get the resources. The last thing we want to do is have certain colleges that have stellar programs that are able to continue and then we let others die. That's not fair. We need to work together as an education system, because we are all working, or actually education systems, because we need to train California's teachers. We need to train this next generation of our preschool teachers. So let's be smart about getting the resources we need. Next we have Rachel. I'm sorry, before we go on, anything else you want to share before we transition to Jennifer?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to mute myself, and now we have Jennifer Paris coming in from College of the Canyons. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, and if you want to let me, oh, perfect. Let me get this up. Okay, so let me try and keep to my time too. And apparently I scrolled down while I was trying to pull in the links that have been shared at this meeting. So trying to keep the document as live as possible. So this document is a compilation of many different resources. So it came from, it was created for the conversations that ASCCC, the Statewide Academic Senate, had me facilitate 5 of 6. Carrie Robertson facilitated the 6th. And so I just wanted a place where I could compile what we were talking about and resources. And it's grown and it continues to grow, and it's probably outgrown its initial purpose even. But so I tried to throw in a table of contents so that you could actually find what you were looking for, because it's now started out as a list essentially of videos, and now it's grown to lots more. And in fact, one of you have already emailed me with things to add to it. So it talks about kind of how people are currently handling courses, kind of what you guys are doing right now, or what we're doing right now, how we need to move forward, summer, fall, and beyond. Sources of virtual content, sources of different resources for people that are actually working with children and families. So if you have a dual role and you actually are in your lab, things that you might use. Oh, I think I see a spelling error. And lots and lots of other things. I expanded it to the TK through 12 by request, and so you can scroll through it. I think it's up to 12 pages. Within this document are resources from Tri-C-ECE and their document. So this document is the other one that's linked, but it's also linked in the Google Doc that I've compiled. And so this one is a live document that you can add to. I wanted to try and do a little bit of filtering, especially for accessibility purposes, trying to make sure that if we're sharing something that it's something we should be using. I can't obviously go through everything, but I tried to kind of take a peek at things when I can. And then the other list actually came from Access, which is a statewide organization, and the acronym, it's not actually an acronym, but it's the Associate Degree Early Childhood Teacher Educator Association or whatever. And so they've got one, and they've actually divided their resources by course. I haven't gone through any of this and pulled any of it out. So that one, if you use that one, it has not been, I haven't looked at it to go through it. But, and so all of some of the other things in that document go to, let's see here. So I do have links to the Department of Ed, teacher credentialing, Child Care Law Center, the Chancellor's Office. I added the one that Kathleen just talked about, the UCs and the CSUs, as well as lots of resources for actually teaching online. For those of you that was never your intention, or maybe you have faculty that was never your intention, it's not what you want to do, but now you're doing it anyways. Some resources that may be helpful. Some are specific to COVID. Some are much more broad and applicable for all circumstances. And then it ends with some mental health coping resources. And I try, and this is already outdated because I've been working on it, but I try to keep a note of when it's been last updated. And then always, you're always welcome to send me things that aren't on there that should be. And then I went ahead and stuck an open license on it so that you could clearly see, although most of you probably don't know what that is, but that just means you can share this out. If you change it, just say, hey, this came from a list that Jennifer Paris created at this link. It's licensed with this license, and it just allows you to freely share it. But you can send the Google link, and you can share it as is if you don't want to change or adjust it. And I know the chat's been blowing up, and I don't know how much of this is related to me or not.
A lot of it is
okay, so the link.
Renee, can I add something? This is Cindy. Go ahead. I just wanted to add, this is Cindy Stevens from College of the Canyons, and I just wanted to add that Access is doing these national think tanks, which I'm a part of, which are around practicum. Mary Harrell from NAYC is participating in that. It's a great opportunity. I know that you said that there's some national people on this call. So it's another great opportunity to link us throughout the United States rather than how we're state by state. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I do have some resources from them as well, but I don't have permission to share them yet. So once I do, then I will share them.
Excellent. Actually, Cindy, I was going to ask you, would you mind asking them if they are willing to open up the conversation to other people joining? And if so, let us know so then we can share that with people for future meeting dates. Because I have a feeling we've got a lot of us on the line who would love to be part of a national conversation. Thank you.
Renee, why don't I send you the link to access and you can contact them? Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to jump in here very quickly. One of the things that we are looking at is I have talked about utilizing those national pieces like NAUIC so that it's not just for California, so that they can help us either gain what we need or advocate on our behalf for not just California, but for other states as well. What other companies or organizations that have a national spread can help us solve the problem that everyone, not just us in California, but everyone across the nation is dealing with in some way or another. And so really looking at that national perspective is going to be so helpful, I think, in this conversation, because we all tend to get very siloed in what happens at my college because we have to think in those aspects. But this is the time, like Renee said at the very beginning of this meeting, we need to all pull together and figure out how we can do this smartly, efficiently, and to the very best of our ability. It is not going to be the same experience that our students last year had, a year ago.
I don't think we can expect, the fact that we're trying to compare it to what was is not fair. And another thing I just have to say to everybody before we go into our next group, I mean, we talk about modeling so much throughout all of our coursework. And I know that we're scared right now because things are uncertain, and we're scared that our best practices that we work so hard to keep those as part of what we do. One of our strongest best practices is now being taken away from us in a different way. But here's the thing, as we move forward, we need to stay strong together. We need to stay positive, because as we engage with other people on campus, the stakeholders that we advocate to, and most importantly, our students, they are looking for us to keep it together and to be the North Star that's guiding everyone. So I understand that there's a lot of disequilibrium right now, and I want to validate everybody's feelings, but at the same time, it's going to be up to us to lead this charge moving forward, and it is going to look different. So instead of looking at it from a deficit model, once we get to a place where we're looking at it in a comfortable way, we need to switch into an asset model. So that way, as we're sharing this with students and as we're rolling it out, it's not like, oh, we're so sorry this isn't what it used to be. It's like, wow, look at this opportunity and what we're doing right now. Because what if there's another pandemic in 5 years? These students have got to be ready to be the teachers and the administrators for the next generation of what's going to happen. So I know that this is not our plan A right now, but it's imperative for us to model positive interactions and figuring out how will we rise from this, because this is an opportunity in education. Here's the revolution, you guys. It came a whole different way than we were expecting. Let's grab it. Let's move forward and let's be the most powerful, let's create the most, or help to create the most powerful social justice change makers in our entire education system. Let's do it. This is the chance. So with that, I will step off of the soapbox. And let's go ahead now with some of our colleagues from Peach. If Jan could come on, I will go ahead and stop sharing in case she has any visuals.
Yes, I did have a new visual. Let's see. Hello, this is totally exciting. And you know, when I was reviewing what Peach has done about and with colleagues across the state in practicum, I realized it's always been a hot issue, but now it is red hot. So I am trying to screen share my little,
Jan, while you're sharing that, this is Tony. I'm going to send the link to our Google Community of Practice drive that has some other resources that we've collected.
Great. Okay, I double clicked on the document, but I don't know if you're seeing it.
We're
While
not.
you're doing that, we'll include any
Now
resources.
let me go with share screen.
And while Jan's getting that up, any resources that are shared, they'll be collected and put into the email we send out. So please, if you have not done that survey, please fill it out so we can have your email address to send it to you.
Great. Well, I may just talk you through it. I've got a hard copy with me. Not sure if am I sharing yet?
You
I
are.
think you're on, Jan. I think it's there.
Hooray! Okay. What I've actually started this about a week ago because practicum is such a red hot issue. So I'm going to go through some historical, but we all know this. We all know that the most critical element in preparation is practicum for early childhood, is clinical practice or student teaching for K-12, for any field. That practice-based element is the most critical part. And while Peach started in 2011, our work specifically on practicum dates from 2015, when there was so much desire to talk about practicum that our first practicum convening drew 87 participants face-to-face. We held a follow-up meeting in March of 2016, but also in 2015, we collaborated with Tri-CECE and conducted an online statewide practicum survey. In 2017-18, Peach was funded by the Packard Foundation to work with faculty in the Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay areas. To backtrack, Peach is a cross-segmental early childhood child development or higher ed collaborative. So we work with community college faculty, Cal State four-year and master's degree faculty and doctoral faculty, and also private university faculty. And we are funded by First 5 LA, so the first 5 years of our work have been centered in LA County with some statewide advocacy. And then with the Packard funding, they asked us to grow activities to initially the Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay areas. And as a focus topic there, we determined we wanted to talk about practicum because we knew it is such a hot topic across the state and across segments from the associate to the baccalaureate to graduate degrees. So at that time, the group of faculty in that expanded area said, we really do want to look at practicum, and we want to look at that practicum survey that was sent out in 2015 and revise it. And so one outcome of that Packard support was the revision of that original Tri-CECE Peach practicum survey, and it's now poised for yet another revision without having been distributed the first revision. So we want to now include COVID-19 information in that context for the revision. In 2018 and 19, Packard funded Peach to work with faculty in early childhood and child development across the state to explore the growth of a cross-segmental collaborative of early childhood faculty across California. So we convened first regional cluster meetings in Fresno, at Solano with Tony Ayala up in Vacaville, and also in San Diego. And in those 3 meetings, we started germinating the network of utilizing the Tri-C-ECE 10 regions and developing 10 cross-segmental regional meetings. And from that, then we asked them to come up with what are regional priorities for each one of you. And in coming together as a statewide steering committee from those 10 regions, we met in December of 2019. And the first statewide priority that emerged in that meeting, and that conversation is not over as yet, was practicum. And this was December 2019, not COVID time yet. But in March of 2020, when Peach in LA County was, like all of us were across the state, shut down or gone online, we formed a community of practice also, as many have across the state. And the first 2 sessions, by request from the faculty partners in LA, were on practicum. And the first session was very, very deep in terms of certainly the technological, but also the ethical tension that programs are under sometimes, and we as faculty are under, about what is adequate for practicum. And thinking that we were there for 1 semester only, one of the faculty's answers was, I'm not setting a precedent. I'm here for just this experience, this semester.
Dan?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you have 1 minute.
Okay, I'll be there. Thank you. But I think that that's a critical issue that creates a tension now going forward as systems are considering, are shutting, basically going online for the fall. And we're faced with this ongoing situation. And then I just want to bring you up to date that we've been working with, participating in the Tri-C-ECE and the OER meetings. And also just yesterday at our Peach meeting, we're working on a new strategic plan that kicks in starting year after next, actually, and next year. And out of only 4 strategic priorities for the ongoing new Peach plan, one of them is practicum. Any questions?
So this is Tony. I'm going to resend for some reason, my link is not being able to share. I will forward the link to Renee so then she could forward it out to the group.
Thank you, Tony.
Great.
Excellent. And so Jan, whenever you have a chance, if you can stop share, that would be great. And then I'll pull the agenda. Oh, beautiful. I really appreciate having this opportunity to have this discussion. I had something happen recently that really surprised me. I have a colleague who's totally invested in education in a big sense. And I mentioned Peach and she goes, oh, what is Peach? And it was like, oh my gosh. And so I think it's so important when we can share history and we can also share the future and what's moving forward. So thank you so much, Jan. It's essential that we have our key stakeholders here. I appreciate it. Okay, and sorry, I'm going to mute myself real quick and then share screen. There we go.
That's great. Renee is doing that. In just a few minutes, we will be breaking up into small groups. Thank you for all of the wonderful conversation and questions and information. And so we're going to break up into small groups and we'll have a facilitator in each of those so that we're not quite so larger groups. So maybe we can answer some of those questions or ask some more of those questions, but really brainstorming our needs is going to be that focus when we're in our small groups.
Deanna, do you want me to pull up the small group agenda piece right now, this piece? And
That would be wonderful.
okay.
So everyone on the email, you should have gotten this. It was the third page in the document, and this is to guide our discussion. So if you haven't already looked at it and taken a glance and already started coming up with your own lists of what you need and who you need to contact and how we can do this as a joint effort where it's possible, start thinking about those right now, pull it up, and start looking through those pieces, and get your answers ready. We need to hear from you. We all need to hear from each other. And then we are going to do a quick report out to the larger group about what happened in each of the breakout sessions. So each of the facilitators will be furiously taking notes as they can and trying to manage technology and all of those sorts of things while they're in the groups. Right. Renee, are we ready?
Yes. Do you need me to option there? What do you need me to do at this point?
All right. At this point, you need to do nothing except everybody be patient. I am automatically breaking us up into 4 groups, so it may take a minute to reassign the moderators to each of the groups. So if you don't get automatically put there, you'll get a thing on your screen that says join the breakout room, and you click on it and you will be put in your breakout room, and you can start the discussion without your moderator if you want to. All right, here we go.
Okay, so you're going to walk us. Hi. Is it working? Yay, I think we're in a side group. Take your mute off. I know we still have 45 of us or 50 of us right now, but this is a great opportunity for us to talk for a few minutes. So if you feel comfortable enough to take your mute off, that would be great. I hope everybody can see on the share screen here. We have got some questions to lead our discussion today. Sorry, let me move that. We have got some questions to lead our discussion today. And as Deanna mentioned, I'm going to be taking notes. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Before we start talking, the biggest message we want to get across is we want to dream big right now. We understand that practicum's not going to look the same. So what can we do to make it as good as possible? So anyone on the team who would like to start us off?
All right, so
I guess maybe I can, go ahead.
All right,
Go ahead.
I'm Lisa Fuller from Saracosa Community College, and we already offer our practicum online. We do the in-class component online, and then I connect my students with master teachers around the state. I use the mentor program and then local people. And it's been a very interesting experience. We've been doing this now for 15 years. And
Wow.
So this semester, when all of this happened, all of my teachers went virtual, and my student teachers were able to join them in the virtual world. And that was very successful. It's a very reflective process. I'm actually very proud of my students and my teachers for coming together the way they did. I had 40 students, and all of them have successfully completed the practicum, with only 4 students needing a 2-week extension to get their hours in. I changed my hour requirements. It was still a 54-hour requirement. We do offer it as a lab. So we have 2 units of lecture, 1 unit of lab. So I think what I've been thinking about how I'm going to do this in the fall. And I think that what I think I need is like a network of master teacher level teachers who are willing to support students in this virtual world. Because even if they open it up and they allow students in the programs, I have students who live with elderly parents who live, who are not going to be comfortable going back into the classroom. And so I guess for me, I would like to see like this online network of virtual mentors that can work with students to develop curriculum. And I know that they're not going to be getting that in-person practice with children, but I see it as reflecting where our field is currently right now, and that is the most important thing that we can give our student teachers is this is how you adjust to an ever-changing world of education. And so that, I think it's just that my dream would be virtual mentors, master teachers who were like, yes, please give me 3 students and I will do this virtually, and they'll develop curriculum and do an action research project, and they'll FaceTime with groups of children. They were doing circle time virtually. It was amazing. And story times, and my students were at least developing skills like reading. They were developing skills for reading stories to children and for presenting puppet shows and stuff. They were recording themselves and then sending them out to families and developing curriculum projects. So, okay, that's my dream. Sorry.
Okay. Well, Lisa, you stated you had 40 students in your class?
Well, I had 2 sections, 20 students each.
Okay, because I've heard some talk about capping the students at 40 per course, and I think that's ridiculous.
Yes, that's why we have a 45 cap for all of our online classes, and they're always filled with wait lists. But the practicum we cap at 20 because it's really 40 students. I agree. 20 students and the 20 student teachers, and it's like herding cats.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. I was nervous.
Yeah, no, 2 sections, 20 each.
Okay.
Lisa, I appreciate that you brought this up right from the start, because there's so many of us assuming this is going to be the new terrain. So to know somebody who's successfully doing this, I've already written down your name. Can you please shoot me your email? Because I think our team will want you to be presenting on these talks and talking about what has been successful for you, what's not working, and possibly see if maybe you can do some trainings over the summer to help people. So,
that would be great.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending your information.
Please, Lisa, we need you.
Yeah, I need
you.
I've actually loved it. It's been a great process, and I actually developed the class online with a student who moved to Romania and did her practicum from Romania and was coming back to California. So
see, I love that. I love that.
So Lisa, how are you going to handle it with the mentor program being reduced or 0?
I don't know. That is my biggest struggle. Is I can't believe that when we need them the most, we're not going to have mentor teachers. Because that is who I go with. I mean, you've probably been contacted by Sarah Koser if you're in the state of California, because my mentor coordinator has probably emailed your mentor coordinator and said, hey, do you have any master teacher practicum, for my practicum students? But that, I don't know, we need to find a way to keep virtual mentors at least, or at least a network of them so that they can be supported and get training and work with students.
Oh, we're getting possibly double. Hi, Jeanette Mulhern from Cosumnes River College, also on Tri-State ECE board for Public Policy North. I did 2 practicums of 25 students each this spring. So I'm a bit tired. I haven't put my grades in yet. And so finished the practicums, and we're looking for fall to go completely online for practicum in fall. Sadly, I did everything I could to try to do implementation, but the actual implementation that will go on ground, I just don't see it happening for, like the safety of opening, and our lab may open for students, but actually opening them, open for taking children, that may happen, but taking our students, I think, is a whole nother thing. But so although I will say moving 50% to online, I was like, there are some really great things that happened. Despite my COVID fever that I said I had for 9 weeks, during this time, just the craziness of it. But one of the things I will say is the combination with the mentor program not having as much support or guaranteed that will pull us through that. And then the combination of my mentor teachers are now possibly going to be working long days in this kind of strange situation, and understanding that I'm asking for instructional time, because I had them all the rest of the spring. I had them unlike I ever had them before. They were in every single one of my sessions. We met synchronous, my 2 labs, we met Monday nights and we met Tuesday nights. And I had 5 mentor teachers who went into breakout rooms. We did prep before time. And so they were able to bring in examples of their practices and examples from the classrooms and then move that forward. So talk about like the ideal situation. It was the ideal situation, but going to be different because they won't have been with them in the classroom, talking about the same children, you know, those kind of things. And then I don't feel like the college is going to say, here, have those students, or, you know, have those mentor teachers every Monday and Tuesday night for 2 hours plus prep time. So I don't know if anyone else is feeling a little bit like that too.
I see some heads shaking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Renee, this is Veronica. Veronica Allen from Mission College. I just want to kind of respond to whether we can do this practicum instruction remote virtual, and I think we absolutely can. I think that we've all learned skills in the last 8 weeks that we didn't maybe even know that we could apply for seminar practicum type courses where there's smaller groups and discussions and presentations and all that. And I don't think that that is a question for me or even for, I'm from Mission College in the LACCD district, one of the 9 community colleges, and I teach education and child development. And I do teach child development 22 and 23, both semesters of practicum. And, you know, one thing that comes to my mind is it's not a question of whether we can do the instruction remote or virtually. I think that we can, and it's being done well. And I think that it can improve if we have to continue to offer that. However, you know, something that my campus has talked about and our faculty has discussed is the quality of experiences. Knowing that the mentor program is being defunded and we may not have as much control or quality control over the environments that our students are in. One concern that I have is even if we can do this online remote, we don't want to send them to just any program to just complete hours. We've had students where we didn't approve them to do hours at a particular site if it was not with a mentor or with our lab school because of the quality. And we don't want them out there just completing hours to meet the hour requirement for a permit or the course grade. We want them to be in an environment where there's quality. And I think that's something that we need to try and figure out. How do we manage that? How do we measure that? What is quality when we're all learning about interacting virtually? And that's a major concern. We don't want to, you know, we're working with humans, very, very young children that are just learning how to develop. Some of our students in the second semester practicum, they've had 90 hours and 5 weeks of opportunity to earn hours. But what about the students that are in the first semester of practicum that may have 0 experience working with children, and they may not recognize what's not best practice because they haven't had the exposure? So then how do we try to navigate, measure that, and, you know, help our students be placed in the right type of environment if they have access to a classroom while we remain remotely?
Mm-hmm. It's a huge concern. And one of the things I know that we're looking at is if we were as a group trying to connect with some organization that we could get raw footage that would be quality raw footage, like we need to figure out like how we can meet that need. Is that working with WestEd? Is it working with Teachstone? Is it working with NAEYC? Like who is it that we need to work with to get what we need to ensure that quality? You know what I mean? And that has to be part of our discussion too.
I was going to say too,
yeah, Renee,
be careful of assumptions too about practicums. We don't offer that early experience. We only offer a capstone practicum. That's not a statewide thing. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think an early practicum would look completely different than a capstone practicum. And so that's not a requirement to have both. Also, I found when I was moving to my online practicum class, you have to give up a lot of assumptions that we have about what quality is. And the first few times I was teaching the class, we didn't have the master teacher component. And some of my students had really bad experiences, like we called CPS and a couple of programs type of experiences. And I have to say that even those negative experiences, my students learned so much as a whole class, even though we were online and not in the same community, because the class was built with so much reflection and personal, personal looking into themselves of how they define quality, that it really became a very bonding experience. I'm still in touch with some of those students actually, and so you don't, there is this assumption that you have to be in the best quality program to have a good practicum experience, and that isn't necessarily true. That's an assumption that we have made.
Lisa mentioned 54 hours. What are the hours that are required by the state? Because
there really isn't. No hour requirement. The minimum you can have is 1 unit. 1 unit is 48 hours. We're 16-week calendar, so our 1 unit is 54 hours. So the minimum we can have at our college is 1 unit for a lab. So that's the minimum number of hours.
I just want to warn everybody, we are going to be called together soon to do a share out. And so we can continue talking, but please know that very soon they're going to stop the breakout rooms and we're going to go back to whole group. So let's keep talking till that happens. I'm already seeing some very important things that are being said from our group that we need to share. So I'm going to mute myself. Let's keep talking, but no, they're going to pull us out soon.
Renee, if I could share for a moment? It's Kathy Miller from Santa Monica College. Hi. So we have 5 sections of practicum this semester. We have quite a few students. And so that's 2 sections of observation, 2 sections of student teaching, and 1 for early intervention. And we of course ran online too, and we've done online and hybrid, both. The challenges that we're meeting is like pretty much what everyone else said is, I have no doubt that we can do an observation class, or we can do, we can do online, no problem at all.
Hold on. What, babe?
But I think the problem is, again, with every semester having 100 practicum students, where we're going to be able to put them in a high quality site, even if we could get online.
They're in the cupboard.
Have a lab
by the toaster.
But not until spring. And so I guess that's some of our concerns is what can we do there. We've actually canceled our in-person, our student teaching classes for fall tentatively, unless some miracle happens. And I'd like to hear other ideas other than, we have 23 California mentors we've utilized. They're amazing, they're incredible, but they're going away too. So I'd like to talk more about that.
I would like to weigh in, if I could, just to share with you about a different experience for practicums. Susan Gilbert and I, in the program director for the early childhood programs at National University. So one of the things that we've been looking at has been a sim school, which is simulations. And quite honestly, what I've seen in the 2 sessions, they address some of the quality and the dispositions. It's based on artificial intelligence. So when students react, they can do it safely, but they get good feedback. The only problem at this point is they don't have much of an early childhood base. Most of the classrooms that they had, but I understand that Head Start has been working with them and has asked them to develop Head Start. And you can mix up the student, like what the students are in it. You can have students that have been identified and not identified. But it was really kind of slick. And as the student teaches, they get back at the end of every session, they get back a disposition thing about what you did well, what you could have done differently. And it's a very different way of looking at it, but it does address some of the dispositions, some of the concerns about students who maybe we want to counsel out of the field. And also it addresses some of the quality issues, because you can define what that classroom looks like and what's happening in that classroom. You can actually set it up so it's an interesting concept. It's not that expensive, actually, but they don't have their early childhood catalog. At this point, what I saw was the K through 12 catalog was quite well developed. The early childhood catalog tended to be more like school, like they were teaching a subject, and so you weren't really seeing children at play, and we had discussions about that, but they were very open to looking at that and said that Head Start had actually been in touch with them and asking them to develop like artificial intelligence and simulated classrooms around a Head Start experience. So it's something to think about. as we move forward.
It's just fascinating what the possibilities are right now. I mean,
yeah, it was
this breakout right now. There's things that I just didn't even realize, and so really, really helpful. I do want to note to everybody, we are going to be going back into the other large group. One thing I'm seeing in the chat box that I would really encourage everyone to do, any feedback you have about any of these questions that are listed on the agenda that we're looking at right now, please share them on the chat, because we are going to be taking that at the end to make sure that we can really get everybody's voice as much as possible. Also, I'm wondering, why is Mentor going away? What do we need to do to make that change?
Well, is Linda Olivenbaum in our group?
I'm not sure.
I think, you know, there's a number of advocacy actions that she's been helping to coordinate and lead, but it has to do with the allocation of these quality improvement funds that come to the state.
Okay, well, looks like we need to fix that, Cindy, right?
Yes, indeed we do.
I think I just got cut off. Am I out of the room now?
Yes, you are out of the room.
The breakout rooms are gone.
Breakout rooms are gone. We're all coming back together.
Yeah.
I'll connect with you, Donna.
One little sentence. Okay.
Yes.
And thank you so much. Finish your sentence, because I was hanging.
Yeah, me too. Finish it, Donna.
Okay, well, so the science is saying that it's less likely that people are getting it from touching surfaces. So I'll look that article up. I think it was reputable. I don't think it was junk, but it might be helpful for us to.
I also heard a report on that getting it from surfaces is less likely than what they had previously thought.
That was the CDC. That was the CDC. So.
Yeah, but I don't know more detail than that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the confirmations in the chat box.
I know we're about 12 minutes till the end of the meeting, and we do have some more to cover. For those people who end up having to get off on a solid 5 if we go longer, the one thing I just want to state is please save the date, because we realize this is the beginning of our conversation. And so I know this is an incredibly busy time of the year. If you're able to join us on Wednesday, June 3rd from 12 to 1:30, we will be continuing the conversation at that time. Okay, with that, Deanna, I want to go to you so you can facilitate the breakout and in terms of what everybody has to share.
Okay, so I will start with our breakout session, and I was furiously writing. We were having good conversations. So some of the asks and some of the suggestions were that we asked the State Chancellor's Office to purchase Coaching Companion and it to be installed through Canvas. So that would be a way to, I don't know the program myself. I know that there are some people who have been using it. That would be a way to help facilitate this practicum piece, so to purchase the license for all community colleges. Also, to please provide a link, a resource page of video resources that are good video resources. Free is great, but if not free, how much does it cost to purchase a package for a certain amount of time? At a college level or at a state level. There was also a conversation about external accreditation and having unified, whether it's external accreditation was kind of the framework that we were talking about it, but the idea really was about having unified expectations that we can then communicate to all of the stakeholders, the people who hold the funds, the people who make the policies, to our chancellor, to our college presidents, to the public, to our students, so that there are some unified expectations and some of the things that we're all struggling with right now, because we're all struggling with the same thing. So if we have that unified voice and with unified expectations, that may be helpful. To also work more widely with our community partners. And as we look at video recording and student placement or partnering with community organizations that are open, just to make sure that we have a wide variety of representation. Because a lot of times in video clips and raw footage things, we see the best of the best. And we all know that our students don't always, at least immediately, find themselves in the best of the best programs. And so those are also learning opportunities. So to think about that. And then also to help our practicum students really look at that family engagement piece and what resources are out there and available to really focus in on the family engagement, because we all know it's all about building relationships. And this particular situation, it's even more critical to build relationships with families. And so thinking about what resources are available or how to go about really helping with that. And then the last suggestion was maybe, again, with the videos that we were talking about earlier, even just if there were examples of that variety of different programming to start the conversations with our students. So having that as resources for everybody. Okay. So that is breakout room number 1. Those are our big highlights. Rachel, do you want to go next with your big points from your conversations?
Sure. So yes to everything you said. We have a list of additional resources and a conversation about we should not be paying for this. If we're a state agency, we should be getting services from other state agencies to help us do what we need to do. More so, though, was a loud voice over the idea that we need to be setting the tone of what teaching looks like here moving forward. We need to be leaders in that discussion. We need to have the CDC or the CDE help us figure out what does that teacher in the future look like. We need to make sure that we have a voice as an expert in guiding what does the new normal look like. We need to, one of the most important things that I got from the conversation was we need to not forget about the children and the process and how everything we're doing affects children, and that we need to offer guidance in remembering that. We also need lots and lots of support with the mental health toolkits, and really this was already a need prior to all of this, and this is even more critical now. I was saying that our college had conversations already about what does trauma-informed care look like in every single class. And we've done a great job brainstorming, but that's just the beginning of a conversation. And that needs to also be a bigger conversation so we have consistency. We need to figure out about supporting disabilities and making sure that all of our students get all of their needs met, not just like the visually impaired students, the hearing impaired students, that every student gets access to these materials and that we can have access, making it easily accessible for everybody. So those were some of the big highlights of our group.
Okay, great, Rachel, thank you. One of the other things that we talked about is, because I almost forgot this, I'm so sorry, but that, what companies, do we look at NAEYC? Do we look at Teachstone? Do we look at WestEd? Do we look at other organizations that have raw footage that could be utilized in conjunction with practicum hours, so that we couple that kind of raw footage and being able to observe and plan for those children with the kinds of conversations that we could have with mentor teachers, if that's a possibility? And who do we advocate with that for? Okay, Renee, your great breakout group.
I wanted to mention, I was looking at the chat right now and I see some people referencing Department of Education. We have contacts at CDE. They're not able to be here today, but they're going to be watching this, and then we're going to be connecting shortly after, and they plan to be joining us. So please know that Department of Ed, they are absolutely partners. TPP, the TPP team worked with the Early Care Division on transition team stuff last year. And so we've established really great relationships, and there are some stellar people at CDE right now. In their Early Care Division, oh my goodness, every time I meet them and see them, I just want to join them. They're doing great work. I want to share for just a few minutes about what my breakout group had to say. And one of the things I think is fascinating is there's different stuff coming out from each group. So if your voice hasn't been heard, please make sure you chime in into the chat room because it's really important for us to hear as many voices as possible. First thing I'd like to share about the breakout I was in. Lisa Fuller has been successfully doing online practicum for an extended period of time. And we have already asked if she would be willing to come and talk on future calls and potentially do some sort of workshop or some sort of training on the best practices that she's learned from already running an online practicum example. One thing that we heard over and over within our group, we need a network of master teachers who are willing to support students in this new virtual world. We're very concerned that the mentor program and what's going on right now with the funding with that. And we realize that we need to mentor program needs funds and we need it to keep working. I see people on the chat that are talking about this and some advocacy efforts that are related to that. So I think we should be as strategic as possible to get as many advocacy letters as needed in order to make the changes that are necessary for us to be successful. One of the things that I thought was also fascinating too is they were talking about different versions of practicum. So what does a capstone practicum look like versus if somebody's offering an early practicum experience? What does a seminar practicum look like? And kind of what are all those potential configurations that we could offer? Excuse me. National University is also on the line and they were sharing with us that there's actually a sim school model that's available and that they're looking at right now. They have found so far that what is offered for K-12 seems to be a little bit more realistic. The early childhood is kind of still more in development. But another thing to consider, artificial intelligence and doing a Sims world kind of practicum experience. So lots of potential.
Great, thank you, Renee. Kathleen, our last group, and we are going to make it really, really close, I think. Kathleen.
Oh, I was I didn't realize I was the person that was reporting. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Kathleen, guess what? You're the person reporting.
I've got 2 kids here that I'm homeschooling, 2 grandkids, so I'm very scattered. But let's see. We had comments. You know what? I'm going to need help if someone else was in that group. I know we had someone from the CTC in our group who wanted to provide support to our journey here. I know that we had a lot of conversations around, I think I brought up the issue of the cleaning, which having extra janitorial support. Let's see, other people chime in because I'm.
Yeah, a couple things. One was we talked about one of the things that they wanted to know was about what we were going to do in the fall. And what's happening at my college is I have to have 3 or 4 contingency plans.
Right.
Because we don't know whether or not we're going to get we're going to be able to have a program on campus, and what is it going to look like. And we have an analyst in our area who has said that practicum students could be included in staff. So I think we're getting a lot of different information, and so we will have 2 or 3 plans, and that's what our VPI is asking for us. And I don't see how anybody could have one plan and say, right now in time and space, this is what we're going to do, because we don't know what it's going to look like in July or August or even September and October. So that's one of the things we talked about. And also just the mentor program and how important it was.
Right.
And using resource and referral agencies in our districts to see if they had funds they could help us with, with the coaching companion or teaching partner. I think those are some of the things.
I do want to add that there were comments around both the cleaning and the opening of lab schools. And I think also we have to look at our own college budgets. They're going to have to make decisions around which labs to open, which labs to clean. My concern at our college is that we already were having budget issues before. My bet is they're going to not open CTE labs, and the preference is going to be biology, chemistry, some of the GE courses that are more universal. So it's not just an issue of whether we can do it, it's an issue of whether we can afford it and whether our colleges and our boards will say that this is a priority. And I think with us, it may not be.
I also want to chime in that have been a number of, I'm looking at the chat, things about doing community-based or home-based options for students, which are all really appropriate, really legitimate, given whatever area of the state that you're in. So using the R&Rs, for example, that are providing essential services. So, can technology be used, and you do a live streaming thing with the programs that are open if your lab school closes or if you don't have access to a lab school. So looking at those community partners as being really helpful. All right.
I know we're right at 5:01 and we do have more on the agenda. I do want to point out, as I mentioned earlier, this is the Friday before a 3-day weekend. We are now a minute over and we're at 155 people still on. The commitment in early childhood education is just extraordinary. It's just, you guys are an extraordinary group of people that you would choose to be here and be part of this, because we're going to figure it out. We will. I do want to note, I'll turn it over to Rachel and Deanna to see what else they want to cover before we wrap for today. But I do want to call your attention to the fact that we are proposing another meeting in like a week and a half, because we understand the urgency of this. I do know that a lot of our campuses are having graduations and whatnot. We're going to try our best to keep everything taped, keep everybody in the loop. Make sure you go on that Google form so we can keep you informed. I really appreciate everybody being on today. Please make sure to save the date and join us on the 3rd if you're able to. I'm going to now turn it over to Deanna so she can do a wrap up, and Rachel so they can do a wrap up.
So Rachel, I know that you are next on the agenda, but I think that for sake of time, we've said that we're going to put together a document that has those links to that information about upcoming conferences and professional development opportunities. You can just put that on there as well. All right, so as we are wrapping up, we need to look at what our next steps are. Looking at investigating what our local resources are. So if it is those community partners, your programs, your, like I was saying a minute ago, your local R&R, who at your college, one of the things that we did talk about, and I'm sorry I didn't mention earlier, is getting the support of your administration. Who in your college do you need to be talking to, advocating, showing them this particular video, of how many people at this particular moment in time are coming together to try to do what's best for students. So identifying those people, looking, investigating to figure out where the funds are for you to get the kinds of support that you need. So if it's a license for something, who's going to be able to pay for that? Are we going to do an ask for the chancellor's office? What administrator needs to get behind you to help with that ask from the chancellor's office to continue your program? So start thinking through those sorts of things. Also looking at what MOUs that you may need to put in place, whether it's with a community partner, whether it's with you are a feeder school to a four-year university, whatever, what MOUs might you have to amend or put in place that you haven't had to before as we walk through this. And then of course, looking at confidentiality for children and families. So those are things that I would hope everybody over this next week and a half begins to investigate and really think through beyond just the practical logistical pieces that are already in our minds and kind of making us all crazy with how do we do this. There are bigger pieces that we also need to think about so that we can do those practical day in, day out things with our students. And having said that, as Renee has just said, we're looking at June 3rd for a follow-up meeting to begin this community of practice. What have you learned in this week and a half? What are the obstacles? How do we continue to go about this? Where are the best practices? Who can we invite to talk about things that they're already doing that fit right in with what it is that we're all thinking about? So,
also, I want to point out one thing, Deanna. I know of at least 2 campuses that in our community college system that have officially canceled practicum for fall. So for anybody who is in that process of making that incredibly challenging decision right now, if there's any way you can share with your leadership what is happening at this moment with these conversations and this video and any follow-up information we give and what's happening on the 3rd, please, if you can ask for the gift of time right now before the decision is called for your campus, I encourage you to do so, because we are problem solvers and we're going to come up with a couple different solutions. Earlier, Deanna said plan A through plan J or plan G or whatever she said there. And that's what we're going to help to determine. Rachel, could you wrap it up, please? Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for your time and being here and your contributions. I can't tell you how meaningful it is for me to see everybody have such a loud, wonderful voice, and we need to keep using this voice. As Deanna said, I will send out some resources. I know some of us moving online teaching, it was a little bit of a shock and having to work in that world. There's a great conference coming up soon that's free, and I'll make sure everybody gets that information as well to help you feel more successful that way. If there are any we'll be going through the comments, we'll be going through pulling out resources that were shared, and we'll be sending that out to everybody. But again, I can't say enough how amazing this is to spend this afternoon with all of you and just seeing how passionate we are about the work that we do. It just reaffirms to me how amazing our lives are, despite the fact that we can't go outside, that we are the voice of, and we have the power. And I love seeing everybody express this power. So thank you for being here today.
Also, one quick point to wrap everyone. I'm sorry, Deanna. For our meeting on June 3rd, please come to that, letting us know what training is needed this summer. Because if you can bring those ideas June 3rd, we can start rolling out as soon as possible some of that training for this summer. But we're going to need to be fast to get those agreements and whatnot going. So thank you so much, everybody. I cannot believe that it is 5:07 and we have 127 people on here.
Awesome.
One of my very close early childhood education friends made felt hearts that have essence and little rice for all 110 of her students. And I am so lucky to get one of them. And I just want to give this to everybody right now that's on this call. We're going to get through this, you guys. We absolutely are going to get through this. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to find a way to be better than before. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time, your dedication. And let's be ready to advocate together. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Everyone stay healthy. And if we can be a resource, please let us know. Take care, everybody. And we look forward to talking to you on June 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Deanna and Renee, are we staying on for a second?
Yeah, let's stay on for a second until everybody else logs off so we can check in. Excellent.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Kathy. Appreciate everybody so much. We're down to 20. So anyone who stays on that wants to stay on to kind of debrief right now, because I know within this 20 we've got some serious leadership. So moving forward, how did that go? Do you guys feel comfortable with what that was? How are you feeling right now?
Hot.
I literally keep a fan.
Stop recording. Stop recording. Stop recording.
Oh yeah, let me stop recording. Sorry.
I did it.
Excellent.
I'm going to say hello because I know I'm not part of this, but I want to tell you thank you for an incredibly well developed and well run meeting and really, really spectacular. And I think there's a statewide voice here that we need to go, and also informational, like webinars, things like that coming out of people's topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan,
Please let us know how we can help to advocate for Mentor, Jan. Like if we need other groups writing advocacy letters, or please let us know, because I'm pretty sure TPP would get on board with joining and writing a advocacy letter, and we can spread that and get some other groups and ask them to as well.
Super. Well, I made 2 little tweaks based on the draft yesterday that was approved. And so after Monday, I'll send it to you.
Beautiful. Also, Jan, I want to let you know, last week I was interviewing some high school seniors for a scholarship, and one of the girls just got a scholarship to your campus, and she's come into your child development program straight from high school. She's been on an education pathway for a while, and I told her, first thing you do is please go meet Dr. Jan Fish.
Great.
So she'll be coming to you in fall. She has a directive.
Super. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
I want to say, Renee,